Okay, our next interview is with Bob Haines Jr., who is the son of Bob Haines Sr., who started a book business a number of years ago. And I think we all know that at some point Bob Jr. got interested. But before that, Bob, what was some of your background? Where did you grow up? Brothers and sisters? What about your parents? What schooling did you have? Those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. I'm a San Francisco boy, true and blue. Reared here. Lived here all my life, except for some stints at college. And I have 2 older sisters and 1 younger sister, and she's passed away now, but I had a German foster sister for 10 years, which is an interesting story in itself, and we can get into that if you wish. I went to high school, all the lower grades here in town, and then I went to Cal Poly State at San Luis Obispo and studied architecture for 6 years. A lot of people don't know that.
I do now.
Yeah, and got married near the end of that, and decided, well, maybe I better do something other than drafting for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I asked my dad if I could come into his business.
And he said okay.
And he said okay, sure, yeah.
How long after you went into the business did he pass away?
Quite a while, but he got ill with some strokes about 2 years after I joined him, and just after we moved the shop from way downtown up to Sutter Street, where it's now located. So it's about 2 years he got ill, and then he passed away some years later.
Okay, talk a little bit about your shop, the kinds of things you deal in, where you're located, and who you've got working with you.
Well, working with me is my daughter, Angela, and my son, Aaron.
That's great.
Aaron went to some college but didn't finish, and he's now going back to school, interestingly, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
Angela graduated from UC Santa Cruz, and then, like I did with my dad, asked me if she could come into the business. And what do you say? He said, sure.
Yes.
And she's been with me over 10 years now,
yeah.
And Aaron too, for that matter. Although
Are they going to be the heir apparent?
You know what, Michael? Everybody asks me that, and I just say I don't know, and I don't push.
Yeah,
so
right.
what happens will happen. I never believed in pushing kids to one way or another. We handle California and Western Americana with an emphasis on California, and that would include everything from Antarctic to Arctic to Hawaii. And I have beyond our specialties, I have a pretty general stock in different areas, including Civil War, literature, mountaineering, art, of course, got lots of art books.
Yeah. Grab-horns.
Pardon me?
Grab-horns.
Oh, yeah, press books, mostly local. California presses, yeah.
Presses.
Yeah. And, 6 days a week. 9 to 5, and then Saturdays 10:30 to 4. It used to be Saturdays 9 to 4, but I'm getting older.
Can't get up that early anymore.
Yeah,
huh?
no, it's hard.
Talk a little bit about your experiences with computers and the internet.
I was one of the earliest people with computers in the book business. I remember we used to take the kids when they were young to Camp Mather, which is a camp up in the Sierra for San Francisco residents. As long as you live here, you can go there. And that was a lot of fun. And I remember taking about 20 PC magazines with me one year and just sitting there for days on end at the beach trying to figure out what computers were. And I finally got it. And so I was one of the earliest to use a computer in this type of business. I remember learning DOS for PCs.
Yeah.
And in terms of the internet, like most people, we use it, and we are listed on about 4 or 5 or 6 book-selling sites with a lot of our stock.
Do you have all of your stock on the internet, or do you keep some stuff off?
There's much that is off, but not on purpose. It's just a time-consuming project, and we haven't been able to put everything on.
Is your daughter the main data entry person?
No, actually, Aaron is the main data entry
Really?
person. Yeah, and he does all the packing and shipping too.
I like packing.
Yeah, well, I used to.
I think it's therapeutic.
But Angela's my right arm. She sits in the back at her desk in her little space and does all the bookkeeping. We use QuickBooks for that. Very powerful, nice program. And she handles all the business side of things for me.
Well, that's great. You know, you can be classified as like a dying breed. If you look around, how many open shops are there in America these days? They keep on closing and closing and closing.
Well, that's what they keep telling me, and you can see it. Anybody can see that's happening. And a lot of colleagues are, of course, preferring upstairs office suites, that kind of thing. Probably because they don't get the weirdos in, and I tend to, but that's all right. It's part of the fun.
You like that?
I do, actually.
Well, when you have a storefront right on a main drag, I'm sure that you have a certain amount of foot traffic.
Yeah, but not as much as I'd hope.
Really?
Yeah. Especially with the economy crash since '08.
The economy, talk a little bit about how that's affected you.
Oh, it certainly affected. '08 and '09 were very difficult, and quite frankly, I had to cut into my retirement fund a little bit
just to keep up.
To keep up, and the buying is better. The buying is
people
better.
Need money. They
Indeed.
Sell things.
And I've seen a little upturn in the business since October of last year.
What percentage of your business, just in general, is with privates, with dealers, and with institutions?
Other dealers are, I don't know the percentage numbers, but in terms of priority, we do a good deal of selling to institutions, and pretty much the ones everybody knows, and just got a heck of an order from the Chinese University of Hong Kong for the first time. That was great. But we do institutions, and we do a lot of private people, and the dealer sales are good, but on the lower rung of the ladder.
Okay. Where's my next question? Other than your dad, talk about some of the people who were influences to you or mentors to you when you first started in the trade.
Oh, David McGee, for one.
That's a name that comes up a lot.
Well, David and my father were good buds.
Yeah.
And I remember as a little boy, David and his wife over for dinner, and David would tip it a little too much during dinner, so eventually my parents got a daybed in the dining room. And David would take his nap, and I remember this clearly, and then my parents and Dorothy his wife would go into the living room and party or whatever they were doing, and David would eventually wake up and join the crowd. And there was Giovanni Scapazzi was one of the early dealers I really liked, and he was so nice to me.
He's a nice person.
Yeah, and so it really makes a difference. They're not really mentors, but somebody you look up to and want to be like.
Yeah, they have an influence on you as a bookseller and as a person as well.
Absolutely. And then, beyond dealers, the stars that would come through. I mean, we're talking about Red Skelton. I knew him real well as a customer. Well, my dad's customer, but I got to know him pretty well. Nice, sweet man.
Was he funny?
No, he was just real sweet. He was a nice man.
He wasn't funny in your shop.
Not funny like that. He was just a real sweet guy. He bumped into somebody, oh, I'm sorry, and shake their hand. And he just, that persona he gave on the TV of being a sweet, nice person was the way it was. Yeah. And Vincent Price was all these guys used to come in when my dad was in business. Not so much anymore, of course. They're gone.
No, they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
But it's still fun to think about who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, what is the next question we're going to ask to you? Since the Internet came into existence, what aspects of the book business have dramatically changed?
Well, obviously, with the Internet, people are able to find what they're looking for, assuming it's a relatively common book, much easier. So what that's done for us, or made us do, actually, our reaction is to only go for the best copies. and I pride myself on that. I try to get the best copies of whatever I'm attempting to sell. And that's, to me, that's the edge. If there's 30 copies at $200 and I've got the best one, mine might be $225 or $250, but the people who know me can count on it being the best copy.
Right, they know your condition.
Yeah, and beyond that, since it is easier on the internet for people to get stuff, it's I think generally it's making dealers be a little more picky, not only in terms of condition, but in terms of what they're buying.
Do you do much buying on the internet?
No. I do some.
Some.
Not a lot at all.
But you do sell on the internet?
Oh, yeah. We're with 5 or 6 of the services.
And how many items do you have on?
Not a great deal. I think we have 2,000 or 3,000.
Well, that's a substantial number.
Well,
considering the kind of material you have.
Yeah, but, I don't put a lot of my California stuff on.
Really?
Yeah, it's all the other stuff. The other stuff that used to sit and wait for somebody to come in now moves.
Yeah, because you have an audience you couldn't reach any other
I'm
way.
reaching millions of people I never would have reached.
That's the amazing part about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just fantastic. Talk a little bit to me about some of the booksellers, the great booksellers of this day and age, and some of the rising stars you see.
Oh, goodness. That's hard, Michael. There are so many of them. Well, we're rising stars, aren't we?
Well, we were.
Yeah, there's a lot of younger dealers who are very sharp, and I can't rattle their names off right now. But
you see them as being a bulwark in the future.
I do, and there's one fellow I met just the other month, John Howell. For books is the way he labels himself.
Yeah, he was a student of mine at the Denver seminar.
Oh, was he?
And I said to him, with that name, you better be good.
Yeah.
No relation, however.
But no. But he's a sharp guy.
Yeah, he's a comer.
Yeah,
he is.
And there are many other people like that.
Yeah. There used to be a time when booksellers would descend on San Francisco like locusts on a plague, and those days seem to have been gone. Do you get, outside of book fair time, do you get dealers coming through like you used to?
Good question. Probably not outside of book fair time. Although, during any kind of function, whether it be a San Francisco smaller fair like Larson provides,
right,
or this ABAA show, of course, all the Europeans and Brits come in. And
now, also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you were honored bookseller at the Sacramento Book Fair?
No.
At the Gold Rush Book Fair?
No. I've been asked early on by John Hardy, who ran that show, to be the honored bookseller, but I just declined. I'm not into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that you have exhibited there once or twice.
Oh, I exhibited many times. Yeah. Pasadena is a fun show. It's very well run by the Bustamante people, and it gets me away for 4 days, and I have a great time.
Do you know that that's where the ABAA LA Fair is going to be?
I knew that.
And I'm wondering, from your point of view, how do you see that as a venue?
Oh, I think it's great. I think they might have considered that years ago.
Really? I understand that it's in close proximity to restaurants and hotels and.
Well, you've got it's right adjacent to the Sheraton. So when you're doing a Pasadena show, if you're staying at the Sheraton, you get tired, you say, okay, excuse me a minute, assistant, I'll be back in half an hour, and you walk 100 yards to the elevator and go right up to your room.
It's pretty much like in Boston.
Restaurants are abundant.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Pasadena's a nice place.
I was talking to Nat Demarais, and he told me that he is going to be taking over, or has already taken over Michael Sharp Books, and is applying for membership under his own name.
It doesn't surprise me, but I had not heard that.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you knew anything about it.
No, I don't.
Well, I think Nat's a guy with a lot of experience in the trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been around a while.
He's been around a long time.
Yeah. I'd vote for him. I think he's a good guy and a good dealer.
I think he is a good guy.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the great challenges we face coming into the next 10 years or so? I mean, based on your background then, your background now, try to, rub your crystal ball a little and see what you see.
I don't know, Michael. I've often thought, what would I do if I had to give up the shop? And that may be a possibility because the way things are going, things are on the internet, things are done by computer and PDF files and emails and what have you, and that has forced some open shops to close. I don't want to close. I want to fade away and get foxed, you know. But so from my own personal view, I'll be in it a while, as long as I still
your health is there.
Yeah. But it's stressful running an open shop, you know, and I've often thought it'd be fun to do it privately from home, but I really like the customer-dealer interaction.
Michael Dawson was here a little while ago, and that's sold their shop last year after 60 years in the same location, and he's doing his business out of his apartment.
That I knew, yeah.
So there are things happening in the trade.
There certainly are, and it's making well, as I suggested earlier, it's making us go for the better copies, because those are the ones we can move.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to I've known this for a long time. You don't want to have to apologize for your books.
The more you have to apologize, the less you're going to be able to sell it.
That's right.
Unless it's something so damn rare and scarce that it doesn't make a difference.
Then you don't have to apologize.
There's no apology.
Yeah.
You just list what it is.
Yeah.
But other than that, what do you think? Is our economic situation going to change? What is that going to do to the book trade if it continues for another 3 or 4 years like this? These are valid questions that one has to ask.
And these are struggling times. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I'm hoping and I'm seeing a little bit of it. I'm hoping the economy will start getting better. And quite frankly, some might attribute it to the recent holiday season and the book fair time, but I've seen a little bit of increase in general business in the last 6 months.
Is that walk-in?
Just a combination. In other words, before the crash of '08, people would come in and pick a number, drop $600 and not bat an eye, and that's starting again. I'm seeing some of that starting up again.
That's great.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. Let's see here. I'm going to ask you my final question. Supposing someone came to you and said, Mr. Haines, I'm a young bookseller and I want to be in the book business. What's your advice? Mm-hmm. What would you tell that person?
Build your customer base.
That would be your main thrust.
I remember when I took over from my dad, Michael.
Yeah.
I really worked on the customer list because he had one, but people were dying off.
Yeah. He never revised it, did he?
No, and I went in and got every Westerner's corral list, and for those that don't know, the Westerners is a group of people interested in Western Americana.
All over the world.
All over the world. And I really worked on it, and I think that's important. So many people, well, I won't mention names, but there's a major California collector about 10 years ago decided he was finished collecting and decided he'd become a dealer. Well, he did a couple of book fairs, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
You just can't. If you're starting out fresh, you want to learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can, obviously, but you want to get any kind of names to put in your database. I think that's critical.
Well, lots of dealers have recommended apprentices. Because if you're a young bookseller, apprentice with someone who's already established. Learn the trade through somebody else.
Well, that's an excellent idea. I wish my dad had been around a little longer, excuse me, in the business before he got ill. Would have been great. I would have learned a lot more. I remember, just as an aside, I got a letter after the fact when I was by myself for about a year after my dad left, and all of a sudden I got a letter from the tax people saying, "You haven't paid your sales tax." And I go, "Oh, really?" It was a real learning procedure.
That's one of the things he could care less about.
Yeah, and so I would, being thrust into the business when he got ill, even though I'd been there a few years, you don't learn much in 2 years.
No.
I was forced into learning stuff that I never thought I'd have to know, and it was great. I mean,
because you do have to know.
Because you do have to know. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much.
Sure.
Enjoyed the interview. Thanks for participating.
Thank you. Appreciate it.